Inflation isn't just hitting home buyers and people with credit card debt. Uncle Sam is getting squeezed by higher borrowing costs as well. The cost to finance America's growing mountain of debt is rising rapidly as the Federal Reserve scrambles to put out the inflation fire by raising interest rates. This year alone, the federal government spent $475 billion in interest. And if things keep going this way, financial analysts say by 2025 or 2026, the United States may end up paying more in federal interest than on the country's entire defense budget, which was $767 billion this year. Banks spent more than $1 billion in ransomware-related payments last year, the Treasury Department indicating it's more than double the amount from 2020 and the most ever reported. The sharp increase could be because banks are getting better at tracking and reporting the payments. Officials from 36 allied governments plan to discuss how to prevent illicit flows of ransom payments and how to make organizations more resilient to hacks. Russia will be notably absent from the talks. The 5 hacking tools that accounted for the most payments during that period are connected to Russian hackers. Pilots at Delta Airlines have voted to authorize a strike if they are unable to negotiate a new employment contract. The parties have been working toward a new contract since 2019. Delta's pilots must get permission from a government mediation board before they can officially strike. The company says Monday's vote does not affect current operations. Stay with us. Hutch returns with an update on your Tuesday evening weather planner.